Welcome to Hooligan Radio, the podcast that covers movies, video games, true crime, cryptids, and a bunch of other stuff. My name is Josh. I'm the movie guy, and I'm joined here by Isaiah and Zach. Isaiah, how are you?
I'm doing pretty okay.
You sound pretty tired.
I'm exhausted. It has been a hell of a week.
Oh, I'm with you there. Long week. Happy we're all here.
Yep, and we do have a guest with us this episode. Paul, how you doing? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paul. I talk about movies too. I love movies. I run the website Wrestling with Film, where I cover any type of movie that stars a wrestler in any capacity. They could be in it for 2 seconds. I've probably seen it.
Wait, so it's not movies about wrestlers? It's just like if they have a
If there was
wrestler
a wrestler in the movie, I've probably seen it.
Okay.
I have like over 150 movies with wrestlers in them from all kinds of different genres.
How many has John Cena been in?
He has been in quite a few, but
I think that's the only one I would really want to see. I feel like a lot of that category is The Rock.
it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I like the weird, like, little independent stuff with, like, wrestlers that I've met or
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I know off the top of my head, you've probably seen this one. What's the one where it's like all the monsters fighting in the tournament with Kevin Nash in the movie? It's like Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. Like, there's all these different, like, monsters. Monster Brawl.
I have my copy signed by Jimmy Hart.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of wrestlers in that, yeah.
Kevin Nash was in it.
Yeah, it's basically like a wrestling tournament, but with, like, monsters, and they, like, kill each other, basically.
That's insane.
RJ City, who's having that huge feud with David Arquette and stuff like that, he plays the Wolfman in it.
Oh, he does? Okay, great, yeah. Yeah, it kind of gave me, like, a celebrity deathmatch type vibe, but with monsters, yeah. But anyway, thanks for coming on. Glad to have you on here. We're going to be talking about found footage and mockumentary movies later, so we'll jump into that. But first, let's start off. We had a big video game event this past week, E3. Isaiah, what were some of the things you liked from there?
We're just going to get right down to it. Keanu Reeves is in Cyberpunk 2077.
That's the only thing I've taken from your little summaries of E3 in our text. Just Keanu Reeves is in Cyberpunk. I'm just like, all right, that's all I need to know.
Literally, Reddit is ablaze with Keanu Reeves. Like, it started out because somebody yelled, "You're breathtaking" at Keanu Reeves because he came out during, like, the presentation. Mm-hmm. And he just, like, yelled to the crowd. He's like, "You're breathtaking." So that's a meme everywhere. And in the 4 days that's been a meme, they're just, like, other memes that are just pictures of Keanu Reeves just multiple times in a meme. And I'm like, what is going on? I was like, first this dude's in Fortnite. Then this dude's in John Wick again. Now he's in Cyberpunk, which is probably going to be one of the biggest games.
Which looks like it is just John Wick in the future.
Yeah. One of the biggest concerns, though, is we haven't seen a lot of, like, solid gameplay. And when games are like, look, we have a celebrity, but don't show any, like, core gameplay, it's always sketchy for me. But hey, man, Keanu Reeves is in it, and he plays a hologram. I think it's like a hologram ghost. So you, like, in the end of the trailer that they showed, you, like, wake up and there's, like, a hologram, like a glitching hologram, and then it, like, comes to and it's Keanu Reeves, and he's like, "I'm Johnny," whatever his last name was. "We gotta go." And then, like, after that, he just comes out on stage, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!" It's like, "Oh, this is a guy from The Matrix."
He was in a Cyberpunk movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was.
That's
Johnny
crazy
Mnemonic.
that his name is Johnny something else.
Yeah, that's why I was like, is it connected that way? Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, this is my first time, because of this podcast, like, paying attention to E3, like, consecutive years. So it was interesting to me saying, like, because we talked about Cyberpunk last year, and last year's E3, and now they're introducing this. So do they have a release date yet of when it's coming out?
Yes. Do I know it off the top of my head? Not a chance. I think it's in 2020. I don't think it's March. I think it might be
April 16th, 2020.
Okay. Well, yeah, that'll be definitely interesting. I mean, to be honest, does Keanu Reeves make me more interested in getting the game? Yes.
Right.
So I guess that was a good choice to introduce him there.
Right. I mean, it's like, I had no interest in Crackdown 3, and then they were like, Terry Crews is the main character, and I was like, I might fuck with it. I'd play as Terry Crews now. I mean, I'm about to. It could still happen.
No, you're right. You can definitely still get it.
All right. And then the other thing, and I was just fucking sobbing in my chair. They gave us a release date for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I am living. As a lot of people know, I don't even know. I probably talked about it a million times on this podcast. That was like one of my favorite games.
I'm literally in probably 4 to 5 different group chats with you. And
I was just...
He sent it literally within a minute to all of them. And
all
I was
of
like,
them?
what is this?
And I just cried in every single one of them. It was so good. They showed some actual major gameplay and a boss fight and stuff like that. And I was just... I'm so ready. Everybody's like, yeah, it's going to be 3 parts. You're going to pay like $180 for the game. And I was like, I will pay any price. I will pay $180 for each collector's edition. I don't care.
Yeah.
So is it a PS4 or I think we kind of talked about it. They're probably going to release the first part on PS4 and then
and
on
they
PS5.
might do timed. Yeah, they might do timed exclusive. I don't know if it's going to be just on PS4, but yeah, the release date is in March, and we haven't gotten it confirmed, but. Xbox said that their new console will come out in holiday of 2020, so I assume that PlayStation won't be far from that. So, yeah, you'll probably have to go from PS4 to PS5, unless I'm not sure, they might have said there will be a PC release, or it might have been something else I was looking at. That's the problem with E3, everything blends together whenever they talk about what's coming out on what.
Mm-hmm.
So... I didn't see a Switch release, because if I would have fucking went off even harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would have been even crazier to just be like, I'm about to play Final Fantasy everywhere I go. I don't give a fuck about it anymore.
So, question. As someone who has Final Fantasy VII on my PlayStation Classic, do you think it would be worth it to try to play it through on that before the new one comes out?
No.
Or just wait for
If
it?
anything, just play a little bit of it, just to understand. And then... see how big of a change it is.
Okay, because the only Final Fantasy game I ever played was X, so
10.
Yeah, that's the only one I ever had any experience with.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've played the game like 4 times, so I would. But for you, I mean, it's not. I mean, the game that's coming out in March is only going to be like the first third of the game, so you're like. Maybe I would do it if you're interested in playing. I mean, you have enough content alone to try to consume. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm not going to say, yeah, you should probably do that before it comes out. But if you did, it wouldn't be a detriment to playing it the actual way.
Yeah, I'll probably do what Zach said, because, I mean, it's one of 2 games on the PlayStation Classic. I want to play that and Metal Gear Solid. So I'll probably put a little bit of time into it. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
There you go.
Yeah, you'll get to see the biggest difference.
But, hey... I have to bring it up. Banjo-Kazooie on Smash.
Yeah.
Zach, are you excited?
I'm so excited. I haven't bought a character yet on Smash, but now I have to.
Damn.
I don't think I bought any either. What's downloadable right now that you can get?
Joker is downloadable right now.
PD the Piranha Plant.
Yeah, PD Piranha. And then they announced that Hero from... because you could name your hero in Dragon Quest. They're calling him the Hero or something like that in the game. I don't know if he's downloadable now, but he'll be downloadable before Banjo.
Did you say Joker? What is Joker from?
He's from Persona 5.
Oh, okay.
It's a game I've been told I need to play, and I don't have that kind of time.
It'll be one of the characters where I don't know the original game, but I'll be like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
New character.
He's pretty dope.
Yeah.
He has a gun.
Like a legit gun.
Yeah. It was funny because whenever he's coming out, everybody's like, I can't wait for Kirby to have a gun. And I was like, yes, this is what I lived for. What about you, Josh? What you got going on?
So, a little bit of a slower week. I did want to talk about a couple of things. So, I'm trying to get away on the podcast from talking about trailers because it's like, you know, I don't like overanalyzing things. I like to let the movie speak for itself. But I did just want to bring up more so the idea of the movie than the trailer itself. We got a trailer this week for Dr. Sleep, which is going to be a sequel to The Shining. And if I'm correct, Stephen King wrote a book called Dr. Sleep. So it's based off of that book. It's not like they're just making a sequel out of thin air to The Shining. And it's made by Warner Brothers. Now, if you remember... It, which came out a couple of years ago, did extremely well financially and critically. And since then, it really seems like Warner Brothers is really trying to milk that Stephen King property that they own. They took Pet Sematary just came out like a couple of months ago, did okay critically, but it did good financially, so it made money. So Dr. Sleep seems like it's going to be the next, Stephen King thing they try to push out there. Have you guys seen The Shining? And whether you have or not, what do you think about this sequel to it?
I have seen The Shining. I didn't know this was actually a legit sequel. Like they had a book with it. I thought this was just something they were coming out of thin air. So it's nice to know that there's a little bit of backbone to it beforehand. The trailer looks really good. It looks creepy. It doesn't give away too many clues on exactly what's going on either. Unlike a lot of the other movies recently where it's like, all right, you've seen the trailer and those are the best 2 minutes you're going to see in the entire film.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, those are some... I've never seen The Shining, but the trailer looks crazy. But I easily won't see it. We all know that.
You say you easily won't see it?
No, he just won't see it. Easily.
I easily won't see it.
What about you, Paul?
I have seen The Shining. It was one of my favorite movies at one point. I went through a little bit of a Stanley Kubrick phase, like Full Metal Jacket and all that. So I am interested in seeing this. But I probably won't see it first run. I'll probably have to wait till Blu-ray. I love going to the theaters, but people just ruin it for me. And I'd rather not get into a fight in the theater and be banned from theater for life.
Has that happened before?
No, I have.
Okay.
I have yelled at a few people, or sternly told them, like, if you're going to be talking, there's a hallway out there.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, calm down. It's not like that. It's not like that.
It's not like that.
What do you mean it's not like that? You're right behind me having a full-blown conversation and I'm trying to watch, what was it? House at the End of the Street or something?
Yeah. Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
No, that has become a problem. We've talked about that a little bit on this podcast before, but it's gotten to the point for me too where it's like, I love going to the theater as well, but like when I saw Detective Pikachu last month, there was an older woman who was clearly there, with her kids, like brought the kids to the movie, and she had her phone on full brightness for like almost the whole movie, and it got to the point where I wanted to go up to her and be like, could you at least turn your brightness down?
Or can at least you get a seat in the back or something? Like...
Yeah, like she was sitting up in the front section. It's like, come on. So I think going to the theater, the one good thing about it is it depends on what you're seeing, right? Like I went and saw Detective Pikachu. I kind of expect that on a Friday night. But it's like, if you go and see a movie, like when I go see Midsummer, I'm going to have a very low tolerance for that because like no one... If you're going to see Midsummer, you want to go see that movie. It's not like a mainstream blockbuster. So when I go see Avengers, I have a little bit more tolerance for it than if I'm going to see a smaller film. But
see, there's something about scary movies in a theater, though, that just amplifies it to me. Like, it just gets the environment right. Like, the sound's perfect, where it's just, like, low at times, and when it needs to be loud, it's loud. The darkness is good. It's not like you're going to have someone open the door and have light flash in, and you just be like, what the hell? But
yeah. And it's good with horror movies, especially when it's not that good of a horror movie. I've had experiences where the ridiculous crowd atmosphere has made the experience better. Because I'm not having that...
Us, when we went and saw him, those people were just yelling at him the entire time.
Yeah, or like when I saw Happy Death Day, like a movie that is okay, but it's like just a dumb horror movie, and everyone was like, freaking out in the theater. So there are exceptions to it, but no, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. For me, I have seen The Shining. It's not a movie that ever I was like, wow, like I have to go back and rewatch it because I saw it, years ago. But I'm open to it. Ewan McGregor, I think, is a really good actor. So I'll probably at this point wait to rent it as well. But unless it gets like huge praise. The next topic I wanted to talk about was Toy Story 4. Now we actually, I don't think, besides like the summer movie preview, haven't talked about this a lot. But it seems like Toy Story 4 has been the movie this year that everyone's like, why do we need this movie? Like, why is this movie coming out? Like, this ended perfectly in Toy Story 3, right? And surprisingly, it premiered this past week. I believe it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. You can check me on that, Zach. But
it does.
It does, yeah. And it has, like, a lot of reviews, too. It's not just, 7 or something. And every critic that I follow, that I trust, has said extremely good things about it, that it's just as good as the other 3 movies, a top-tier Pixar movie. So that's pretty surprising. My question for you guys would be kind of the same thing. What is your opinion of Toy Story 4? Do you think it's unnecessary, or do you have interest in it? And does the positive reception influence you at all in that?
So I want to start off with a question. So is this Toy Story 4 essentially bringing in another saga, like a 3-parter, or is it just like, as of right now, Toy Story 4 and that's it?
Yeah, so I don't think anybody's for sure. What I would say is it seems like Tom Hanks and Tim Allen have really been kind of like acting like this is the last one they're going to do. But if it makes a ton of money and Disney offers to pay them a ton more money, I'm sure they'll do more. So I'm not really sure to answer your question.
I mean, it's unnecessary to me. I didn't even see the third one yet, and I'm pretty okay with not seeing it.
Oof! You gotta see the third one.
Why?
I haven't seen it either.
See?
I heard that the third one is really good. I haven't seen it because I don't.
All right, so
watch it.
one of the 4 of us here have seen this movie.
Okay, but it's been like a decade. It did come out in 2010. I mean, have you seen the first 2?
Yeah.
Okay, like if you have seen them but you don't really care, like if you haven't seen the Toy Story ones, but if you've seen the first 2 from your childhood, I think the third one's kind of like a must see.
I don't know if I've seen the second one.
Yeah.
What happens in the second one?
The girl cowboy
Jesse gets introduced.
The collectible guy with the chicken.
Yeah, it's the airport sequence at the end, I think.
Cowgirl one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have no emotional attachment, if you have no emotional attachment to the franchise, that's one thing. But no, if you've seen the first 2, I highly recommend it. But as for the fourth one, what are you guys thinking on that? I mean, obviously you don't give a shit.
Seems like it's just Pixar making money.
I'm trying to determine if I actually need to see these movies or if Josh's fangirl side is showing.
You should see them like how we talked about in the last... I think we talked about in the last episode with the
no
idea...
sound and put it on the other screen while I'm playing a video game?
You have to go to a drive-in so you can see them all concurrently for like dirt cheap.
True.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to show all 3 Toy Stories.
You'll probably get 3 and 4.
Yeah, probably.
So like
3.
you watch the second one, you've seen... you know the idea of the second one. The girl cowboy's there. Now just go see the third and the fourth one in the drive-in.
Listen, it's toys, man. Paul, what about you? What's your experience with the franchise?
It was a big part of my growing up when it first came out, and I'm not sure. I think it was Burger King that was doing the tie-in with them, but they had like the toys. They had the car that you could drive and everything like that. Well, I drove my family crazy searching for these things for Christmas, so I ended up getting them all, and I love the franchise. It's just I just never got around to watching Toy Story 3. This will probably be the reason I end up watching them all, and I'll probably watch the 4th. They have a tie-in ice cream
right now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's like Carnival Churro. It's got the...
Wow, that sounds bomb.
I love churros, so I want to get it, but it's in those like little tubs that like the DC character ice creams come in and stuff, and it's like $5 for like this little bit of ice cream. And it's got the 2 characters from the trailer, the
chicken, 2 stuffed animals,
the chicken and the bear or whatever that are
from
the carnival,
the Key and Peele characters.
Yeah.
Key and Peele are in the movie.
I didn't know that either.
Yes.
Who else is in the movie?
Keanu Reeves is also in the movie.
What the fuck? No, I have to see it.
He plays a stuntman toy called Duke Kaboom.
You're lying.
Is that actually real?
He's not lying. At first,
real
and then
thing.
I was like, oh man.
God.
So that's what that toy picture was about.
I thought you were just straight up lying to us.
No, and yeah,
I've seen a picture of him. It looks like Evil Knievel with a mustache.
Holy shit.
And
Keanu Reeves is in it.
Key and Peele play 2 carnival like stuffed animals basically, because a lot of the movie apparently takes place at a carnival, so they're in it as well.
Holy shit. I thought I was getting memed on.
But I've only seen Toy Story 3 once, so I don't want it to... This isn't some huge movie like, Toy Story 3 is one of my favorites. I just feel like if you saw the first 2 as a kid, you're going to emotionally be invested in the third one. But like you, Isaiah, you probably wouldn't give a shit about any of the installments in the franchise, so I wouldn't recommend going and seeking it out. But that's really it for movie-wise.
Is this the year of Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
It kind of is.
I'm going to bring something up movie-wise. Have you seen the Banana Splits thing going on? It's an old 60s cartoon with live-action characters. Well, they're turning it into like a Five Nights at Freddy type horror movie.
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
Characters.
Yeah.
And it looks really like... I'm excited for it. I haven't even seen the trailer because I don't want to spoil myself. But I've seen some pictures. And I'm like, I have to see that. That looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what it was when I saw the trailer, so I was like, oh, what's this? So I watched the trailer, and it's basically like there's the show called Banana Splits, and the characters are, evil, basically. Turn evil, or I don't know if they were always evil, I don't know. But no,
it was like a kids show in the 60s, and people loved it, and they're like, hey, we're going to take this property, and we're going to...
So it was a real show in the 60s. Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Dang.
I wonder who... who owns that.
60s. I might be wrong.
I wonder who owns that property that was able to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
What was that other one? What was like one of the first movies that had animated characters and real life characters? It was like something Peter Rabbit.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit. That's the first thing that I thought of when you brought that up. And then you were like, and it's kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's. And I was just like, is Keanu Reeves in it?
Probably.
Am I doing still?
He plays the kid.
He was like, what?
They've de-aged him, and now he's like his little toddler just running around.
I would pay for that.
That's pretty great.
Get on it. Who do we got to write to get that movie?
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So speaking of Five Nights at Freddy's, Zach, what creepy stuff do you have for us?
All right. So the FBI has recently released a 22-page investigation that they went ahead and did on Bigfoot. And it all started from a letter that they received from a man in Oregon.
We need a music sting at that. Just
The man who sent it in was J. Cochran Jr., who was the assistant director for the agency Scientific and Technological Services Division. Essentially, he sent the FBI this envelope, which was essentially just a little bit of skin and a lot of hair in it. And it was like, this probably came from a Bigfoot. And I guess what he saw is he saw some creature walk through two trees where he's like, a creature shouldn't have been able to get through that. He walked over there, he saw this hair and stuff, put it in an envelope and sent it to the FBI. What I find really funny with this, though, is at the end of the letter that he was writing about, he essentially was like asking for them to run the samples and was pleading for the FBI to take his research seriously, saying that this is an important thing that the United States needs to know about. Unfortunately, 22 pages for the FBI, not a lot. They had a lot more on like John Lennon, Martin Luther King,
Yeah, they write 500 to 6,000 page documents about things.
Yeah, they probably had more than 22 pages trying to decrypt a certain song from John Lennon or something like that.
Yeah, this is an FBI intern memo. They're like, we're gonna let you run this one, kid.
So nothing really interesting in the report?
Well, so essentially the report included them getting the research back to him, which around this was around 1977, 1970s time frame, and it came out that this hair is essentially from a deer family origin. They weren't able to specifically say what type of deer for whatever reason, but just from the deer family with it. Yeah. But
so we might have, what is it? No, centaurs are four-legged. Is it?
No, centaurs are the...
half man, half horse.
No. I thought those were...
Montaur.
Oh, no. I'm confused. You're right.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It was probably whatever the two-legged version of a centaur is. I think it starts with a half.
That'd be sadder.
Shit.
I don't know what I'm thinking
half goat,
of.
Half man.
That's from the Lion, What's the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
What's the thing that's like half bull in Greek mythology? Minotaur? That's what I was thinking of.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah. So, I'm confused on the timeline. He gave them this stuff. This is all from the 70s? Is there a report from the 70s?
So, he sent them the letter in 1976.
Okay.
And then they essentially were like, okay, this was the part that I forgot. So, essentially, the FBI wrote him back, was like, all right, I know we have a bunch of stuff that we have to essentially do, like terrorism and other important things, but we'll take the time out to do this for you. And then a year later, that's when they were like, all right, here's our results. And they sent it to him.
Okay. So this was...
So it's
a
just
while
become
ago.
declassified? Is that the...
Yeah, that's what it sounded like, is that they finally released it to the public.
It's finally safe.
Like, we wrote you a 22-page document 40 years in the future.
Well, no, they gave it
to
to him, but they were like, they were finally acknowledging, yeah, this happened. Here's everything.
Oh, they're acknowledging that they did look into this Bigfoot thing?
Yeah.
I get that.
But unfortunately, I guess the mystery of Bigfoot's just going to live on for a little bit longer.
I'm telling you, we can
Maybe
find
Bigfoot was wearing a coat made of deer fur.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Maybe it was given to
him. Is that
him
a common thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Deer fur.
It sounds like a Bigfoot thing, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know if you
He's
ever
the
heard
protector of the forest. Maybe
Forest
he was a kid.
wives. Have you ever heard of the forest wives? Bigfoot take humans as their wives.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And there's a lot of weird erotica that comes.
I don't want to hear about this.
Well, I'm not talking from the erotic.
No, but it's weird.
But
Like
it's weird, and it's a thing. Like I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I watched a movie that had that as a part of it, and I was like, I think they're just making this up. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh my gosh,
No,
they're not.
I came across it during one of my weird rabbit holes during late night, and then I was like, I want to look more into this. And then eventually I just got into a page where it was multiple Bigfoot eroticas with that situation. I was like, this isn't research.
All right.
That's when my time frame was done.
The fan question of the week is: do you think Zach would become a Bigfoot wife? If Bigfoot came out of the forest and was like, I'm gonna fuck you for the rest of my life.
He shaves his face and gets a wig, and he's like, come on, Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'll give you the answer now. I would be blessed.
There you go. Answers yes.
40 years from now, he emerges from the wilderness, and he's like, I finally have it.
Yeah. Finally, proof. Look at all this. Which I guess this next year we can somehow go into that.
Wait, I'm sorry, I can't move on yet. I'm just imagining this video proof is like Zach making dinner and Bigfoot like coming home, like a briefcase. He's
actually
like,
just 7 Ziploc bags full of Bigfoot sperm.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, hey honey, how was work? He's like, oh, rough, where's the dinner? And the police are watching this, just like, what the fuck? Where does this Bigfoot work? I'm so confused.
How many years did he have to do this? 10. He couldn't do it after the first film.
I was having too much fun.
So, yeah.
So now you know, if Zach ever just randomly never comes back to the podcast, he's probably in love with a Bigfoot somewhere. Or the Ohio Grassman.
That's where I'm at. So the next story I have is just too outrageous for me not to bring up, which oddly somehow goes with this last thing we talked about. There's a company that is releasing perfume that smells like semen. And it's come out that this was recently inspired by the AIDS epidemic.
How?
Wait a minute.
Are you sure it's not a plan to spread the AIDS epidemic? Or?
Yeah, there's a lot to go on here.
We got 2 points. One, we've really lost track of where this podcast is going. 2,
Zach, what true crime stories do you have for us? Semen.
Semen review. That is, oh god!
I don't even remember the goddamn Toronto Sun.
This is the type of quality content our listeners ask for.
God, that's like, see, I can't. I mean,
it's got to be like a gag gift, right? Like,
so the company that's selling it, which I'm not even going to try to butcher this French name, is the perfume's going to be called Secretions Magnifiques. It will be sold at a cost of $120 for a 50 milliliter bottle, and it's supposedly going to have notes of not just semen, but also blood, sweat, and saliva in it.
Okay.
I refuse to buy any product that has the word secretion in it.
The only person that will own that is like serial killers. So if you smell something really bad, you're like, yep, you're one of them.
That's him. That's them.
It's him.
The perfume makers come out and claimed his inspiration for the scent came from his younger years when he was worried about the HIV and AIDS epidemic of the 1980s. I'm
kind of getting nauseous just thinking about
this. I'm just like thinking about people like getting out of the shower. I'm like, can't wait to spread this fucking cum on me, bro.
He said the perfume is very connected to the 80s and to the viral risk. I thought about doing a perfume that would smell exactly like the situation, where you don't know if you're going for it or if you're protecting yourself from what you want. You are at the point between pornography and romanticism. You are lost between attraction and repulsion. It is a very dual perfume.
I just imagine this is from the Toronto Sun. Okay, I just imagine a Toronto Sun, like they're somebody in a cubicle just writing this up like, this is my fucking piece. This is the one that's gonna get me on the site. I'm so excited. He sends that shit over to the editor, and the editor goes, "What the fuck?" All right, put it in. Put it on. This is a headline. This is good.
Oh my god.
The marine effects.
Can I order it in the States?
You probably can. It's described as being slightly salty, excites the taste buds, and puts water in the mouth. The description continues: languages and sexes are found, pleasures explode, and everything changes.
think I would just use it to spray random shit.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, yo, why does this pencil smell like cum?
What if they like actually made it because they're like, you know what's worse than skunk spray? Like, let's make something to mask the smell of skunk spray.
What if you just
like, okay, we'll come up with cum flavor.
I'm thinking it's like someone has some type of issue where they can't finish and they have to do this to trick the person they're with. Like, they're like, you didn't. You're like, yeah, you smell that? That's
the cum.
Yeah, I'm good. You can only smell it.
Okay, let's never talk about this again.
I'm happy we had it's 5 minutes of fame on our podcast, though.
Damn, dude. Can't wait for trying random shit next week.
See it, play it, skip it. See it, play it, see it, play it, skip it.
Okay, so I watched The Perfection on Netflix.
Alright, so we're now in See It, Play It, Skip It.
Yeah, they heard the theme.
Keep forgetting about that.
I watched The Perfection on Netflix, and basically just to give you a small description of the plot, you have this academy where people go to learn how to play, I think it's violin or cello. What's the really big instrument that you go like
cello.
this?
That's
cello. Okay. I think they play violin there too.
I love how you say that goes like this, and this is obviously not a visual thing for our listeners.
He played
I was asking you guys. I didn't know what the instrument was. But basically, it starts in the main character basically did this as a kid at this academy, had to leave because her mother got sick, and now she's her mother finally passed away, and she's like in her young 20s, and she's going to this event to meet the people who run the academy, and it basically gets crazy from there. The academy, there's some stuff that goes on that isn't good, and the main character is basically trying to save the next like prodigy, like the next one coming out of this academy. So she... And I won't get too much into spoilers, but basically just give you a quick summary of it. She drugs her, and the girl starts having hallucinations, and it kind of goes from there. So this girl's having hallucinations of like, she's throwing up, and the main character's like, oh my god, there's maggots in your vomit, but there's not. But like because the girl's having hallucinations, the other girl's kind of egging this on. And it leads to a pretty crazy point. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because the movie has a very like Korean style as far as like Korean film is very about like revenge and torture and those types of things, and this movie gets to a place by the end where I don't know if I'll ever like kind of mentally get over it, the imagery that it shows, and it's so weird because like the whole movie it doesn't really go over the line of like being ridiculous or gruesome or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, the last 5 minutes, it's just like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, with like people having body parts cut off and like, people having a limb amputated and it's like stitched up and like just very disgusting imagery. So I just wanted to bring this up as I would not recommend this film, but I just wanted to bring it up to warn anybody if you're looking for a good horror movie. The Perfection has some good parts to it. I like the overall plot and the idea of it. But just be aware, the end gets very gruesome. So if you're someone who's not into that or queasy, I would not recommend it.
What service did you say this was on?
Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
Okay.
So it gets really, really wild. I just wanted to bring that up because as a Netflix original, you go on to Netflix, they throw the trailer in your face, and I'm like, oh, this seems interesting. Mm-hmm. And the main character is the girl from Get Out. So I was like, oh, I liked her in Get Out. I'll watch this. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get over what I saw at the end of the movie.
Now I have to see it.
Yeah, I figured that'd be a reaction as well. People are like, "Oh, now I have to watch it." If you're into that,
well, I'm a huge fan of like Korean thrillers. Koreans really love to mess with your emotions when it comes to movies, or you don't know who's the villain and who's the good guy. That starts to,
and that's very in this movie as well. Yeah,
Interesting.
So I'll probably end up seeing it.
Yeah, so I would say skip it unless you're into that type of stuff like Paul mentioned, or that I'm talking about, gruesome stuff towards the end, and I don't want to say torture porn. I don't think it goes that far, but it gets pretty gruesome. And that's all. Besides that, I've just been still watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I'm on the second season now, but that's about it. So what about you guys?
Go ahead. I'll go last.
I don't know if I want to bring up a lot of the stuff I've been watching this because it's going to be tied into our main topic.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. You go. I'll go next.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot of games because I tried the Xbox Game Pass for PC. There's a ton of games on there. I think almost every indie game except for Enter the Gungeon, which is free on Epic Games Store right now. I'm specifically talking to PC players right now. But there are so many games. You get $1. It's the first month is $1 for the beta. And you get games like Metro Exodus. There's a game I'm about to start called Surviving Mars. Into the Breach, Moonlighter. There's all these different indie games, and there's a few actual mainstream games. I think Prey is one of the games you get access to. I mean, for $1, why would you not? And then eventually, I think it's either $5 or $10 for it. But I would say that I would say Xbox Game Pass for PC is a play it. Eventually, Reach is going to come. The Master Chief Collection is going to come to it too.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Right. So I would check that out. And then the only other thing is I watched the first season of How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. That shit was fucking hilarious. It was so good. It took me until basically the last episode to realize like the people in the film were actually kind of like, there are parts where they're just like lip syncing to what these people who actually like went through what was going on like are talking, like speaking over what they're doing. And it took me literally to the last episode to go, oh, that's why sometimes it doesn't look like it lines up with what they say versus what the subtitle says versus what they're mouthing, is because there's literally just like 5 or 6 people who are just telling the story of the thing, and the kids are either mouthing what is going on or stuff like that. So I thought it was hilarious, but the first season ends at the fucking worst point. Because now I'm not on the second season, and I don't know how long until I'm going to get it. Or if I will even get it, because it didn't get a reception. So I would check it out, especially if you're into, it's like kind of a drug selling or movie, but it's kind of more of like, what was that other one where like it's just weird British kids?
End of the Fucking World?
Yeah, something. It's kind of more like that.
That's the vibe I got when I saw the trailer for that. And that's a Netflix show as well, right? Selling drugs.
It's like that if you had drugs.
So is this? It sounds like it's a new series, like just released.
Yeah. I don't really understand the whole premise. I'd have to Google it and actually look into things before I watch them and stuff like that. And it's not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Paul?
Well, my C8 is The Witch Files, but I'll go into more in depth about that when we get to our next topic.
Oh, because that has to do with the main topic as well. Okay, well, it sounds like both of you do. So let's just go ahead and get into the main topic, and then we'll bring those movies up as we get to them. So today we're going to be talking about kind of our favorite and just kind of the overall idea of found footage movies, mockumentary movies, really any type of film genre that has some type of POV camera work or a mockumentary style. So first I just want to talk about our own experiences with that genre, and before we get into individual movies we like, just kind of overall, maybe what was some of the first ones you saw that got you into it, or your overall experience with it. For me, the Blair Witch Project was a little bit before my time. I've seen it, but I was still pretty young when that came out. So the first one that really opened my eyes to it was Cloverfield. And I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but when I saw the first Transformers movie and they played the teaser trailer for Cloverfield, where there wasn't even a title on the trailer. It was just like it showed some footage of the Statue of Liberty's head getting thrown into New York, and it was that found footage style. I was like, what the fuck? And after seeing that movie, I got really into found footage. I think that the thing I like the most about found footage is that the good ones really make you feel like you're there, right? Like, it really makes you feel like this is a realistic thing that could happen. Now, the bad ones don't do that, but the good ones do that. I think on the con side of that, though, it's really easy for lazy filmmaking to occur, because it's just such an easy way to let's make a movie for $10,000. Let's just use found footage, right? Like, we don't have to really try that hard, and you get a lot of duds that way as well. So that's been my experience with it overall. I kind of want to focus the movies I'm going to talk about are going to be outside of the horror genre, because I know you guys are going to bring up the horror genre, and that's a huge part of found footage. So I'm going to more so focus on the outside. But what are your guys' experiences with the genre?
It is probably my favorite horror genre for the time being. When I first started getting into horror movies, pretty much like how you explained with Cloverfield, when you see a lot of these found footage stuff, and I don't know if it's just being a kid or not understanding what you're watching a lot first, you're like, wow, is this real? Is this actually happening? Is this something that was found or something like that? And I guess it like just grew my interest into it, whether it was the subject of like, because a lot of the found footage are like ghosts or like monsters, serial killers, stuff like that. So it just gets you immersed into this culture, and you just want to learn more about it. Like, is this real or not? I think that was the big thing that got me started into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm going to just fall right in the trap of every single episode we have to bring up Grave Encounters, but doesn't Grave Encounters count?
Yeah, absolutely.
My goal was to make it through without saying it, and we're 5 minutes in.
I knew I was the one. I was like, this trap has been baited, and I'm ready to walk right in.
Obviously, if you've listened to the podcast, you know we all love Grave Encounters. I figured we would bring it up. We won't go too in-depth in it because we will eventually have a full episode on it down the line.
But God, yes.
Absolutely.
At some point, we have to do that.
But we're going to break it down scene by scene. It'll be a 4-hour episode.
Yeah.
We may just do a commentary track.
That might just be the episode that is our last episode.
Right.
We'll just ignore every episode.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, now that I understand, Grave Encounters, what about the films like these like webcam / desktop? Like
count.
Those count also?
Yeah.
Damn. I would say that probably the first one I remember actually seeing is probably Paranormal Activity. That counts too. And I was okay with the first Paranormal Activity. I think after the 6th one, I was like,
Yes, there are
I'm out of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've sung the praises of Grave Encounter, so I guess that I can't say that I'm not interested in the genre, but there's a few films that I've seen. I heard that Cloverfield wasn't all that good, so I never saw it, but...
Yeah,
they lied to you.
I
believe it.
I think the biggest complaint of it was it was just extremely shaky at times. Because there's
what do you expect? When, like all of New York is falling apart in front of your eyes.
Yeah,
You're
look how stable I am.
I got a camera strapped to my chest, like one of those steady cams.
It fell into that thing where it tried to build up anticipation too much, and then it was just like, okay, we need something.
It falls victim to the mystery box. J.J. Abrams is like, sets up all these questions and then doesn't like to give you answers. That's what he does. Even Star Wars: The Force Awakens does the same thing, right? I
think a lot of good found footage films leave you open-ended with wondering, well, what did I see? And because your mind makes up things and makes these movies scarier because what's lurking in that corner just to the left or something like that. So when they leave on an open-ended question, it really makes you think. And I think that's a big reason of why I like found footage as well, is because it makes you're immersed.
Yeah.
And then you think about that for the next, say 2 hours.
I've been thinking about Cloverfield for 13 years, but
yeah.
Until they ruined it. But so, Paul, if you want to go a little bit more in depth, and then we'll talk about individual movies afterwards. But what was your kind of first experiences with found footage, and what got you into it?
My first experience of it was Paranormal Activity. Actually, when it was in theaters, there was a lot of bootleg copies floating around on the internet, and I kind of latched on to that and brought it into my paranormal investigation group, and we talked about that and aggravating spirits and doing stuff like that. So that was neat. But another one that really turned me onto this genre as a whole is Diary of the Dead, George Romero's found footage entry in his Of the Dead series. And it's about a filmmaker who's making a monster movie, like a mummy movie, and then it turns out the world is going to shit around him. Zombies are real and everything. And ever since then, I've been delving into the deepest, weirdest parts of found footage. I've read 3 books on the subject. They're hard to come by because they're academic texts, which you really wouldn't think that would exist for found footage.
Yeah.
But if it comes to filmmaking, there is probably a book on whatever it is. And I don't really feel like it's a genre as a whole. I feel like it's a framing device. It's a story device.
Okay, yeah.
That they use to tell the story. And I think it's very, very hard to accomplish because for a good found footage film, you don't want opening credits. You just want it to go straight into it, because if you see opening credits, you're like, oh, I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
But if there's no opening credits, you're like, okay, this is real. And a lot of times you'll see movies and they'll put in non-diegetic sound, which means they are editing music in or editing sound effects in. It's not using the natural diegetic sounds that are actually have sources on camera, and that takes you out of the experience. And sometimes CGI really becomes a problem because if it's not done well, it can take you right out of the experience as well. But I just love it because there is so much found footage out there right now. It's since it first came out. I mean, it was toyed with in Cannibal Holocaust. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that movie.
Yeah. I know you have,
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard sit because it has real life animal deaths in it. But there is a Blu-ray out now that lets you skip the animal cruelty. So that's pretty cool.
It was to the point with that movie, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where they actually had to...
They had to prove that they didn't kill anyone.
Because they essentially charged the director with murder.
Holy shit.
It was like, you killed someone on this video.
Because they
were like, no, we didn't
with
do
the
it.
Blair Witch, where
Awesome.
they took the actors, like the actors disappeared for a while with Blair Witch until they realized, oh, it was a stunt or whatever. With Cannibal Holocaust, these guys weren't allowed to appear in media or anything, and he had to bring them in and
these people are alive.
And show special effects. Like there's a part where they impale a girl on a stick, and they had to show that there was a seat, and there was a fake part that came out.
Oh yeah,
in the mouth and stuff like that, because it was just so
gruesome.
Viscerally real.
Imagine being the police or whatever that charged that guy, finding out it's fake, just like. I knew it was fake.
I mean, imagine being the judge and it's just like, call your witness, and it's the girl who you thought died, and they're like, alright.
The jury's like,
I request a recess.
But ever since I started collecting movies in like early 2011, a large part of my collection has been focused on this wonderful storytelling device known as found footage.
I've got two questions for you.
Yeah.
One, is there any overlap between what you talked about at the beginning with your website about wrestling with film and your found footage? Are there any wrestlers in a found footage
There is
film?
one movie. It's called Black Wake. It was it's a Lovecraftian found footage. I don't know if you guys know what Lovecraftian is.
Yeah.
We fuck with the Lovecrafts.
Okay, you fucks with the Lovecrafts.
Fucks with them.
And one of the people in it is DJ Haven. He was a director, actor turned manager in wrestling.
Oh, right.
So that has a connection, but a lot of the times there isn't. I would love for there to be.
That was another thing. Is do you think that the immersion is ruined whenever they cast?
Oh yes, absolutely. When there are familiar faces, it tends to ruin it unless they are playing it as this is a mockumentary and it's just for silly gags and stuff. Because there's a mockumentary called Tour de Pharmacy, which is about 1982 Tour de France and doping.
Oh, nice.
And John Cena plays one of the bikers in it.
Hell yeah.
And Andy Samberg's in it, Freddie Highmore.
Huge cast.
Huge cast. It was made for...
never have heard of this movie.
It was made for HBO, and it is one of my favorites now because it's just so ridiculous. Amazing. You guys have to watch it. But it's played as something like, you know, it isn't
it's
real,
comedy.
but it's comedy. Yeah. It's good. Or like, what is that one? Is it Document Now? It's a Sundance show or something.
Yeah,
it's got the people from Portlandia.
Fred Armisen. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like little fake documentaries.
Oh, I think I heard about that. Maybe Documentary Now? Maybe?
Yeah, Documentary Now.
Okay, I have heard of it.
And they use familiar faces too, but, you know, it still works in some sense. But a lot of times when you see familiar faces, you're like if John Cena was in something, like a found footage, okay, that's John Cena. I know this didn't happen because John Cena's still running around and hosting smarter than a fifth grader.
So we got to talk about...
Is he really?
Yeah, he is.
We got to talk about Tour de Pharmacy a little bit more because Paul just turned me on to this, so I watched it last night. And first of all, oh my God, what a huge cast. I mean, so many cameos. Like, the great thing about it, because it's like a mockumentary about 1982, and then they have like current interviews with the same like athletes. So it's like... what's his name? John Cena's character in 1982 is played by Dolph Lundgren in current day, and then it's like Andy Samberg's character is played by Jeff Goldblum in current day in the interviews. So it is so hilarious, and Lance Armstrong makes a cameo in the movie, and it's so great because they introduce him as like, we got a biker who would talk about doping if he was like covered up, and then they like the whole bit in the thing is how you keep saying that it's Lance Armstrong.
Opening doors and opening blinds, and he's like, well, what if we change your shape? So at one point he's wearing like a chinchilla fur coat and a cowboy hat, and he's like, I really can't be talking about this. He's like, they can't see me, right? They can't see me. And they're like, oh yeah, you're fine. But it's like clearly Lance Armstrong.
The first time you see it's him, it's like he's in complete darkness, and then like he checks his phone, and the light from the phone just shows him, and I see it's Lance Armstrong. I'm like, that's so fucking great. So I thought that was I had to talk about that because I just watched that last night, and I was blown away by the cast because it's like any comedy person you can think of is in there. Like it's a huge cast. Yeah, it's only 40 minutes long, so it's an easy watch.
Yeah, it is.
And it's free with HBO, or you can rent it on Amazon. But I wanted to bring up that question about the big name thing, because for me, I think one of the great things Cloverfield did, because Blair Witch Project obviously made that idea a bit more mainstream, but Blair Witch was still, like you said, Paul, this is completely real. These actors aren't really actors. I think what Cloverfield did is, obviously a monster didn't really attack New York, right? So it did open up, mainstream-wise, the idea of found footage in a way where it can still be presented as a narrative. In a fictional film and still being good. So like one found footage movie that I really like is the movie Chronicle. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
I was going to bring that one up.
I saw it in theaters.
Yeah. So that's about a group of teenagers who get superpowers basically and become superheroes, and one of them becomes a villain. And it's a found footage film. Something like that you could never sell as a real event, right? Yeah. But I think those type of movies, a lot of times I enjoy even more, because it's so easy to ruin it. If you're trying to sell it as real, it's so easy to be like, oh, well, that one element isn't real.
Well,
so
I know
accept
it as a narrative. Like, what's his name? TJ? The one guy that has the camera in Cloverfield?
Yes,
He was in Ready Player One. I don't know.
It's the guy who just had a controversy. He's kind of canceled right now. I can't think of his name.
I feel like Cloverfield really helped them spark their careers as well. Mm-hmm. But I could understand. I was like, I didn't know who those actors were then.
Yeah.
But watching it, like, if they present it as like this is entertainment and stuff, it works well. But if they're like trying to say like this really happened, it's so hard to keep people immersed and not break.
That's what I thought they did well with Blair Witch, because it was like Blair Witch made a website of it, like saying like, hey, like people are missing. Here's all these documents.
One that had a campaign online that you could actually interact with. I forget what they're called, like ADRs or something now.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it just hit it on all media fronts and like tried to sell it for as long as it could, that like, hey, this is a real event going on.
That's pretty cool. I think it would be interesting if they made a found footage film, if they redid was it End of the World, where they had all of those famous
This Is the End.
This is the end.
Yeah. Oh, is it found footage?
You cast all of those famous people as themselves, and just like, this is found footage from the time when all of these actors did a bunch of drugs.
I mean, there's a lot of found footages that aren't horror. Like one that I know we've watched a little bit was Project X. And I didn't think of that as a found footage till I was doing some research this week, and I was like, oh, no, I guess it was considered it.
Yeah, Project X. Yeah, that's a good one too. But I was gonna say, I know we're not gonna talk about Grave Encounters a lot, but I do have to bring up since I mean, it's so great, but since you mentioned it, like with effects and everything, whenever people ask me, because people ask me all the time, right? But whenever people ask me what I think about Grave Encounters 2, like my answer is always, the reason I like Grave Encounters 2 so much is I think it makes Grave Encounters 1 a lot better. And one of the reasons for that is because like there's so many things in Grave Encounters that can kind of ruin it for you. Like, oh, you see a bad effect and you're like, oh, that's bad. But then in Grave Encounters 2, they have the guy say like, oh, we put in some bad effects in there to make it look fake. Or at the beginning of, spoilers for both movies, at the beginning of Grave Encounters, at the beginning of Grave Encounters, you have the guy coming on and being like, this is all real, right? And then at the end of Grave Encounters 2, he's like, this is all fake. So they complete it in so many ways that like a lot of found footage movies have those pitfalls, but Grave Encounters has Grave Encounters 2, so now I can go back and watch Grave Encounters and be like, oh, that doesn't bother me because they explain it in Grave Encounters 2. So, wow, what a great film.
I really like that directing duo, too, the Vicious Brothers.
Yeah.
They did Extraterrestrial. I don't know if you've seen that.
I
haven't seen that one.
You should definitely see it. It's not found footage.
Oh, okay.
But it's some kids get abducted by aliens. So, and there's there's something else going on too. I don't want to spoil it, but it's worth watching. I wish they would do more found footage because they nailed it with Grave Encounters, and I think maybe they could strike gold again.
So before we move on to more of the mockumentary side of it, were there any more like horror or even non-horror, just straight found footage films that you guys would bring up as your favorites?
The only other series that I absolutely love, unfortunately up to the very last of the series, is the VHS series that would be running on like Netflix. I think that was the main one that it was on, streaming platform.
It was made by, was it? Somebody that has to do with Bloody Disgusting, the website Bloody Disgusting.
Oh, okay.
Brad Miska, I think.
Yep, right here. Brad Miska.
I know the guy that directed the wraparound for the first VHS directed the Blair Witch sequel.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Zach, with those. What was your experience with those movies?
It was just really good because it also, at least to me, this was one of the first films that allowed you to watch a film but see little mini stories throughout the entire film. So for those of you who don't know what it is, essentially in each part of the series, these people come across VHS tapes and they'll play them throughout the entire movie. And there'll be little shorts of horror movies. Like one will be like about aliens, one will be about monsters, serial killers, ghosts, like just a bunch of different things. But each one is a found footage, like they're carrying around a video camera with a VHS tape in it.
And in some cases, it's hard to believe because you can tell they're shooting with digital cameras, but there was somebody who took the time to collect this footage and put them on VHS tapes and distribute them. I love them too. I love all three.
Yeah, the last one got a little too bizarre.
Yeah,
but it was still good.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one just because I haven't heard great things from you guys about it. So I know Brad hated it, so I never checked it out.
Ruined Brad. He was so mad.
The first VHS I rented it, and I was like, oh, okay, that was fine. Like I liked it, but the second VHS. I love the second VHS, specifically the two segments. The first one where the guy's on a bike and then gets attacked by a zombie and becomes a zombie, and he has a GoPro
by the
on.
Guy who directed Blair Witch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I loved that one. And then the one where it's kind of like a mockumentary style where they go to the cult and it ends up like summoning a demon or whatever. Yeah, those two segments for me justify the entire series. Like I am glad that VHS 1 exists just because we got those two amazing segments in VHS 2.
Yeah.
VHS 2, I think like they're all pretty good. The last one with the alien abduction and the little kids at the sleepover, that one's okay.
I love that one because
do?
I love that director. He directed Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So that one wasn't, maybe it's because I was fatigued by the first four.
Well,
but
it's so wildly different than the tone of the other ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can... It affects your experience.
Yeah.
I think it's the first one where essentially it's a group of 4 guys and they go to a Halloween party, and essentially they go into this house that, as they're going through the house, it's empty. They're trying to figure out where everybody's at, and they essentially just come across like a cult ritual sacrifice happening at the top, and then the house just gets crazy from there.
Yeah, I do remember that one. That was pretty good. I also thought you were going to talk about the one where the guys are at the club and they bring the girl back, and then the girl ends up being like a
They did a spin-off of that. They did a full movie of it.
They
really?
did?
Yeah, it's called... I want to say it's called Siren.
Damn. I would be interested in that.
It's like a full movie with that girl as that creature.
Is it still found footage?
And no, it's not. Unfortunately,
no
not.
interest. No.
It's still worth seeing.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I liked that segment.
But it was tight. It was concise as that first little segment. That it kind of loses some of its charm when it's a full length.
Isn't another thing that I'm surprised that Zach hasn't brought up? Isn't it like what was that one fucking Slenderman 600 episode?
Marble Hornets.
Yeah,
I watched some Marble
technically
Hornets.
Found footage.
That is
it's
found
YouTube.
footage.
It's not a movie, but
I mean, that's a really good example of similar to what Blair Witch was trying to do, where they made it a platform. Like, they made YouTube their platform, and they ran with the story that it was real for years. And they would even do the timing, like, okay, we need to make this video 6 months from now, and they would do that and keep it going.
That's interesting. Yeah, I figured that you would bring that up because I remember you watch it. I don't remember how many fucking episodes there were.
There's another really long-running YouTube series that is all found footage. It's called The Haunted World of CW, Claire Williams or something like that, and it takes place in Ohio.
Oh shit!
Really?
We're gonna watch that
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I started watching some of it and it was really interesting and stuff, but when you see there's like 600 episodes and stuff, or 3 seasons worth of stuff, you're like, wow, what a task.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't stop us. Zach and I watch anime. We're in it for the long run.
So, Paul, was there any other found footage horror you'd recommend?
I'll talk about some of the most effective ones. I feel were very well done. Blair Witch Project, of course. Mm-hmm. There was one called Hell House LLC. It's on Amazon Prime. It's about a crew of haunt members. They put on haunts in like different places every year, and they do it in this hotel called the Abaddon Hotel. And something happens that night that's tragic, and they are trying to figure out what exactly happened, and it shows the footage of that.
I mean, yeah, we could talk. The impact of Blair Witch is insane. They're literally talking about it last week that they're releasing a Blair Witch video game.
Yeah.
What that entails, I have no idea. But like,
it's enough to have me interested in it, though.
Yeah. There are 3 other Blair Witch video games for the PC from when it first was out.
From when it first came out.
There was tie-in novels. There was trading cards. You name it.
Trading cards.
There was trading cards.
Yeah.
So obviously,
I've activated my Blair Witch trap.
Obviously, on Blair Witch, real quick. The first sequel, Book of Shadows, isn't found footage, but the recent sequel that they made, which is kind of a reboot, but
what did you up right off? The next one.
What did you think of that one?
I liked it. I think it was a little bit over the top with the things going on in the woods and whatnot, but it was good. I was satisfied with it. I ended up buying it on Blu-ray. So
yeah, I really liked the last part where they're in the house. My biggest annoyance with that movie is I feel like it introduced so many ideas that like found footage could use like drone cameras and like all of these things that they never capitalize on. They're like, we have this drone camera that can see the whole forest. I'm like, sweet. And then they just crash into a tree.
It crashes into a tree.
And then that's it.
And they find it like, what is it, like 6 days later or something? They're up in somebody runs up into the tree and there it is just blinking and they're like, oh, what's that? And you hear, and it's the drone.
So, but, were there any others you wanted to name off?
Nori. It's also known as The Curse. It's on YouTube. As of last I checked, the whole thing was on YouTube. It is directed by Koji Shiraishi, and it revolves around a little missing girl and a possible witch. And it's a mockumentary, but
but it's horror.
I feel like found footage and mockumentary are almost synonymous nowadays because the way they're filmed and whatnot, they use the same framing device, but one benefits from the fact that it can be edited. It can be found and then edited and then presented, whereas found footage is just like,
this is all the things we found.
This is all the things we found, but somebody still had to put those together.
Yeah.
But when it's presented as raw footage, it's hard. Another one is Megan is Missing.
Oh God, that is.
We were ruined by that movie for years.
I know it's a very hard watch. A little known cast. Very effective film. Don't watch it if you have daughters, is all I'm going to say.
Or
just
not a strong stomach.
Yeah.
It's etched into my mind the scene with the barrel. That's all I'll say. That is literally, as soon as you said it, the first thing that came to mind, I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. The scene where she's talking to her friend, I don't know if they use Skype or something, where she's talking to her friend about giving a blowjob, I'm just like, what am I watching?
Another mockumentary is Road to El Mistero de Lovecraft. It's a mockumentary that presents the fact that Lovecraft got the idea for Shadows over Innsmouth from an actual town in Italy.
Oh, really? Oh.
So they go to Italy to film this documentary in this town. And I had to import it. I have a region-free player, so I can watch movies from anywhere in the world. But I really liked it. I thought it was really effective. It was tense. It was creepy. So that was a good one. And finally, Capture, Kill, Release. It's about these 2 people that decide they're going to be serial killers. They're going to try to get away with a murder. And
I don't think that that order of words really
Yeah.
Goes
works.
together.
Capture, kill, release.
Yeah, and
The footage.
and it doesn't end up being. It's like it's a couple,
Okay.
and at first they find a transient fellow, and that's going to be the person they kill. And
The first one.
Yeah, and they accidentally don't give him enough poison, and
Oh shit!
And
That sounds intense.
it's really intense. It's just like it's 3 people. That's the entire movie is 3 people. If you don't have a strong stomach for animal violence, don't watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a very effective film. When I watched it, I was like, wow, this is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
But and I also have movies that I just think are fun, found footage wise. One's called Jerusalem with a Z.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
And it's about a couple of Americans who go to Tel Aviv, Israel for like spring break or whatever, and the gates of hell open up. And she has Google glasses, and it's not called that, but that's what records the action.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. CGI, real cheesy, so it's hard to get through. Space Clown. I just watched one called
That
Space
sounds
Clown
insane.
just the other day. It was ridiculous. This guy goes to film a meteor shower and accidentally an outer space clown wrecks into his guest house.
What the hell?
And it doesn't really work like as a pure found footage film because there's like different noises and stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like 3 different cameras, but it's insane. It's so vulgar.
Shit.
So vulgar. There's like a 4-minute scene where the clown's taking a crap.
Oh damn! That's
4 solid minutes.
Yeah. If you want to see a clown's dick come out of a Jack in the Box,
Oh man.
then this is
your
movie.
film.
This is your film.
This is your film.
It's crazy. It has opening credits and it opens with a rap about the space clown.
This sounds like the Gingerbread Man and
Yeah.
like those good.
It was a
films.
lot of fun. I just tweeted out that I really liked it, and the director thanked me. And he was
Nice.
amazed that anybody even thought it was any good. I think, because they originally shot it in 2013, and then it wasn't going to be released. And then he was an actor in Almost Human, and he directed Sequence Break for Shudder.
Shutter, okay.
Yeah, which is the all horror streaming service. And I haven't seen that yet, but if you like crazy movies, and I don't know if you like to drink, then get some hard liquor and watch Space Clown.
All right, so let's. I do want to get into Behind the Mask here. So,
Okay.
Well, I have one more film I should bring up.
Yep.
A good one. Not I shouldn't say a good found footage one, but at least one worth watching is Apollo 18. If you can
oh
find it.
god, Apollo 18.
That was a decent one.
What a theater experience when we all went and saw that.
You ruined it for the entire theater.
I mean, I remember that scene where they're on the moon, and it's like, I don't know what kind of light it is. It's like a strobe light, and it's like, and it's like the most effective scene for that effect because it's like, you're on the moon, so there's literally no light. There's no light, and then they're showing it, and it's aliens right on the moon.
Yeah.
It was like rock creatures.
It's almost
or something.
it's like
it was
alien-
rocks. It was the rocks.
Yeah.
It was the rocks.
But no, that one scene in particular always sticks out to me as being really effective because I usually hate that type of thing, but that scene really worked. But to get into Behind the Mask, we're going to go spoiler-free at first, and then we'll jump into spoilers. We'll let you know before we do. But I wanted to bring up this film in particular to talk about because it's such a mishmash. It's such a hybrid. You have mockumentary, found footage style, and then you have a regular narrative style. The movie's really broken down into 3 parts. Like, you have the beginning where you have, and this is kind of a description of the plot. So the beginning, you have this film crew who's meeting this man called Leslie Vernon, who is a murderer and is planning to, set up a slasher film type scenario. So in the movie's universe, they treat like Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy as if they're real real. The events really happened. And this guy is trying to follow in their footsteps. Then you have the second part of the movie where some things are uncovered and he's not really who he says he is, and they have to deal with that and deal with their ethics of should we continue filming this. And then you have the third act, which is not a found footage film at all, and kind of just turns into a slasher movie.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it spoiler free. It was I watched this years and years ago, and I really, really liked it. Rewatching it last night, I still like it, but it's a little bit more amateurish than I had remembered. But I definitely still enjoyed it. Zach, this was your first time watching it, right?
Yeah.
So what did you think of it overall?
Overall, I wasn't a big fan of it, unfortunately. I didn't like them switching between the different views of found footage and then narrative sort of thing. One thing they do really well into this isn't ruining it, I think, but like how you said, they take like Jason Voorhees and pretty much those big, iconic killer movies from before, and they essentially break it down. Like at one point he's describing like I can't remember the word he used, but essentially he has an enemy and he's just like, I have an enemy, like all the great killers have an enemy, and which is essentially the person who tries to stop them from killing the group of kids. And there's just other things that they always bring up, is like there always has to be a virgin in the party that's trying to be killed. The person who eventually kills them at the end has to go through this big sort of like rebirth thing of like gaining their strength, and it's just like it was really interesting that they were talking about it, and I'm looking back at all these, I'm like, wow, that was literally in every single one of these movies, and it's kept on to this day, like trying to keep that sort of thing going with it.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like Cabin in the Woods, how Cabin in the Woods was all about, the structure of a horror movie. It definitely got into that. And one thing to quickly mention, Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, is in the movie as the Ahab, the guy who's supposed
Ahab,
to be
that's
like
the word.
He plays Doc Haller, and he's supposed to basically be like the doctor from Halloween, right? I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but Donald Pleasance, basically that character. So it was cool to see him in there as well.
And
also, when they show the Elm Street house, the person taking out the trash is Kane Hodder, who just played Jason.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that was a little Easter egg.
Okay, and then so what was it that you didn't like about the movie?
I really didn't like how, like I said, I was switching between both, and I think whoever said it hit it on the dock. It just seemed a little bit amateurish. Like, if it was probably made today by like a real like more well-established film, like, because I'm assuming they didn't have a big budget for it, and you can't blame them for that. Like, they did the best with what they could do at the time. If I saw it when it originally came out, I probably would really like the movie. But I feel like I'm just spoiled now with a lot of these horror movies that I'm seeing nowadays with it. But I mean, it was humorous at time, which I always like having in horror movies. I know a couple quotes that I actually wrote down from the movie that I thought were really funny. It was, what was the main serial killer's name in this?
Leslie Vernon.
He was going through like and explaining to the people who were filming him like how he's gonna do it room by room. And at one point, the camera guy's like, "Why don't they just knock out the window?" And he's just like, "You would think that they would do that, but they don't do it ever for whatever reason."
Yeah.
And then they were asking the essentially his mentor and his wife. At one point, they were like, "So how would you escape yourself?" And essentially, the wife's just like, "Never have a virgin in your friends, and you'll live." And it was just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
Do we have one of those though?
I don't know.
No, I think we finally made it. I think we finally got it.
Well, they would have to be a female, I believe.
Yeah, it had to be a female virgin.
Oh, well, we don't
Unless
have
it
anything
was
else
a
in the group
female
anyway.
serial killer and she had
A female serial killer. Yeah, that's true.
Survivor
That's true.
Boyance. There
Bah.
you go, $1 million idea, guys.
Put in the list.
So,
Serial killer.
so Paul,
spoiler.
spoiler free. What? This was your second time watching it,
It was
right?
my second time
And
watching
what do you think of the film?
I was just as disappointed this time around as I was the first time. I thought it was like an actual mockumentary, and then it just like veers way into narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're a huge fan of slasher films, you'll enjoy it just fine, I think, even with the varying perspectives and whatnot. But also, with all the famous people in it, it just took me right out. So.
Mm-hmm. With Robert Englund and everything.
Robert Englund and all that.
Yeah, for me, it worked for me, and I think this is why. The opening scene of the movie isn't a found footage style scene. It's the girl coming out of the diner, and you see her, like, the whole scene that he sets up that you see later on in the movie, how he does it. So right from the beginning, this movie is showing you that it's a narrative. It's showing you that it's a fictional movie. So then when he gets to the mockumentary style, I always had in the back of my head, like, oh, they've already presented that this is fake to me.
See, that completely
ruined it for you?
Missed my mind. I didn't realize that in the beginning that somebody wasn't actually filming it, because the way it is, it looks like somebody has a camera.
Yeah,
but it is.
But there's music and stuff. Yeah.
It's a narrative.
So to me, that caught me on, and then also the scene in the library, obviously, where they switch to a narrative. That's when I'm like, oh, they're doing this again, you know.
Oh, the lady from Poltergeist is in it.
Yes, the lady from Poltergeist, and I love the original Poltergeist. So that was a great cameo as well.
I mean, there was a lot of good cameos. The acting wasn't really bad either. Like the guy who did Leslie Vernon, he was really good. I thought in it.
Yeah, he did. He did an excellent job.
Except for the stoners, they were not that good.
I mean, they were the typical stoners in serial.
Yeah.
I've never seen a stoner act like that, and I used to be one.
It kind of gave me Thanksgiving vibes there.
Yeah.
But the movie did really work for me. Like I said, my second time watching it, I didn't like it as much. Although the one thing I'll say is the first time watching it, I was younger, and I did not get the comedy at all. Like, that was not a part that I was impressed by. This rewatch, I appreciated the dark humor a lot more, and kind of the self-referential, they know, the movie knows what it is. I enjoyed that part of it a lot more. So I'm glad that we have differing opinions, because nothing's more boring than all of us liking a movie. So,
but the Grave Encounters episode.
But that is
we are at 3.
But let's go ahead and jump into spoilers. So if you haven't seen Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon, I would recommend it if you like slasher movies. Obviously, Zach doesn't sound like you would recommend it.
I probably would not. I mean,
maybe a skip it for you.
Yeah, if honestly you're just looking for something to watch and want a drink or something like you were saying, go watch it. It's not awful, but if you have other things to watch that are probably better quality, I would just pick those instead.
Okay. And Paul, would you recommend it?
I would recommend it if you go in knowing that this is largely a hybrid movie. If you were just looking for a mockumentary or something or found footage, I wouldn't recommend it. But now that you know that, it will definitely help your experience and your enjoyment of it.
So let's jump into some spoilers. So one of the moments that I caught on my second watch of the movie is right before it starts, when Leslie Vernon is putting on his makeup. And he says that he puts on a fire retardant that he made because the main girl ends up killing him, setting the building on fire. And then I don't know if you saw this act, but if you watch through the end credits,
he sits up on top of the morgue table. Yeah.
So clearly, that was one of the things I really liked about the movie that you kind of brought up, is they treat these other famous characters like they're real, and this movie kind of gives explanations to how could they get killed and not be dead, or how could they do this? Like when he gets shot by the doctor in the library, and they're like, he shot you, and he's like, oh yeah, I was wearing a vest, I'm fine. Yeah. Like they kind of explained it to make it seem like, a normal man, could pull this off.
And the preparation going into it, there's scenes of him doing boxing, a shit ton of cardio.
And you don't know how much cardio goes.
He's like, you know how fast you have to walk to pretend like you're and be able to catch up to them. Wow.
Definitely. And how I'm trying to think of the other example where you first meet the old couple, and the old man is in his backyard buried, and they call it the tank
for 6 days or something.
Because it's these characters can be in these types of situations after they're killed.
It's one of those no sensory tanks, because they're you have to be able to completely control your bodily functions. So they think you're dead.
And his wife's he's back in the tank, and he goes in the back and they just dig him up, and he's like, what does he say? He's like, it's Tuesday? And he's like, no, it's Thursday. So I really liked that kind of meta part of it, trying to explain these, obviously in their own franchises, they're these fictional, mystical beings. But this movie kind of tries to bring that down to earth. And I love how the old man is talking about, back in my day, you just kill a bunch of people and get out of there. And he's like, now it's all about returning like a curse. And they've taken it to a whole new level. So I did like that.
He was another famous face.
Yeah, do you know what he was from?
He was from Walking Dead. He played the farmer.
Okay, I haven't seen that show.
In season 1, when they go to the farm, or might be season 2.
He had a bunch of other small roles in some movies too. Because I looked him up because he looked like a familiar face to me as well.
And Scott Wilson.
Yeah, Scott Wilson's his name.
And I also liked how the twist of they think they're following this virgin the whole time, and Leslie is following this group. But in reality, his plan all along was the main girl of the film crew. She's the virgin. I thought that was a little cheap to never bring that up.
There's a barn scene, and they're like trying to figure out like why all of this is changing, and they're like, "You must have planned this." And she was just like, "I thought I had to be a virgin," and then
she's like, "Oh wait."
Yeah, I'm just like, "You." I was like,
"What?" Come on.
Yeah, what fucking plot?
As soon as he told me that while filming the documentary, I would have gone and had sex with somebody.
She's actually from Home Alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The original Home Alone?
Yep.
Is she one of the kids?
She's one of the kids.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought that was a little cheap, throwing that in there. But beyond that, I did like that twist where they think she's the virgin, and then they walk in and she's just like having sex with that guy.
That is definitely not a virgin. She knows what she is doing.
So, yeah, I enjoyed that element. But I can definitely see, especially if you're expecting a full-on found footage, why you would have been caught off guard by it, why you wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
I think if I watched it a third time, I might enjoy it. I think there was so much time in between me watching it that I completely forgot how it worked. And I think that I just set myself up for disappointment again.
Yeah, that's totally fair. All right, well, I mean, that's just about it for our discussion today. Thanks, Paul, for being on. Anything else anybody want to say about the subject, or are we all good?
Go watch Grave Encounters. It's the best found footage there is.
You have a few weeks to watch Grave Encounters before we go scene by scene.
Scene by scene.
Yeah, through both movies.
I'm totally down for the commentary track. We can sell it. We got to monetize this podcast. All right, so thank you to American Spirits for the theme song ADHD. Thank you to Surgerberger for the See It, Play It, Skip It theme. Paul, we can start with you. You can go ahead and where can we find you on social, and you can talk about, plug anything else you want.
You can find me on Twitter at ScoochSlam. It's at SCOOCHSLAM. And I'm also on Facebook. I have a page for my website. It's just Wrestling with Film on Facebook, and my site is wrestlingwithfilm.wordpress.com. I'm not always super active on my site. I do write for another site as well called BNS About Movies. But those are the main places you can find me.
Awesome. Go check them out.
What about you, Zach?
You can find me on Twitter at Zach the Pigeon.
When was the last time you tweeted?
Does retweets quick count?
No.
Not this year.
Nice. At least 6 months.
At least.
What about you, Josh?
You can find me at Josh Hooligan R on Twitter and Instagram.
New handle, dog.
I love it.
Crispy.
It is.
And you can also find me at Josh Singh on Letterboxd, because apparently I have to become a pro member to change my username.
Yeah, I think I'm on there, but I'm not sure. Here, let me look up mine.
Yeah, I think because I went to your profile the other day and it showed that you were a pro member. I think it's like $10 a month.
It's $20 a year.
Oh, a year?
Yeah.
Shit. Anyway, if you guys like movies and you don't use Letterboxd, I would recommend it. It's really fun. Basically a social media site for people to talk about movies, and it's really cool just finding new people on there and getting perspectives on movies that aren't, critics or aren't, people that you don't really know or anything.
Yeah,
like
thankfully.
Don't have an insight like we do.
Nah, they're finally taking that shit off my social media. I need more shit posts, less people talking about movies.
that. Speaking of shit posts, how's your detox going?
It's going, dude.
How much longer you got?
I can't get on until like September 20th or something.
So
like
the summer off, huh?
Yeah.
Any interest in going back on, or are you probably just going to stay off at that point?
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? At this point, I don't fucking know.
All right.
I'm on Letterboxd. It's Wrestling W Film. So
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. And that's how I found out about Space Cloud for your review there. So that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Paul, thanks for coming on again. I appreciate
We
it.
didn't watch. This isn't YouTube, Josh.
Again,
Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
shit.
an audio podcast.
ADHD sounds driving me crazy.